Hi, it's me Josh again with another video where we just make stuff. Today we are going to continue on our Nerf Slingfire cosplay mod. We're going to sand it, prime it, and if we have time, paint it with its base coat. So let's get started. Okay, so it is early today. Really early. In our last episode, if you watched it, you saw that it got so hot in the shop here that not only was I just pouring sweat and dripping all over the table and all over the Nerf gun, that the cameras that I have actually got so hot that they shut down. So today, what's interesting about that is, one, it wasn't a particularly hot day, although it was really hot inside here. And it was only about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. The hottest part of the day in the summer in Texas is about between 4 and 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I thought that I was early enough that it wouldn't be that hot. It was still too hot for my camera. So today, it is early in the morning before it has a chance to heat up so that I hopefully can finish this without my cameras dying. So with that little bit of business out of the way, let's get started. So here we have our Slingfire. It's all laid out in front of us, all of the parts that we took off. It's really a complicated gun on the inside, but I chose not to take apart everything, like the trigger and the lever for the lever action, to make it easier and less likely that I was going to lose something on the inside and not be able to get it back together and put it back in firing order. So there aren't a whole lot of parts, but there for at least this part of it. Now, once we get it all painted and primed, I will show you how many different colors there are. For example, the bandage. This is, wood. There's a color. These are different colors. There's like 4 different, patterns on here that we're gonna have to go through. But for this phase, we don't have to worry about that. But we are gonna start off by sanding the plastic to get it ready for the primer. Of course, I've got my gloves on. I won't start that over with my spill, but it's important to sand this. Now, you don't need to, we're not like, we're not shaping anything. We're just scuffing up the plastic. These guns are made out of ABS plastic. They're molded ABS. Well, ABS has a lot of great qualities, and one of the qualities is that nothing sticks to it. I guess that's good for some things, but when you're trying to paint plastic, it means that your paint's not going to stick to it. That's one of the reasons that we use primer first to help with that. The primer sticks better than anything in general, and that helps out. But then we also scuff it up. So basically, we are just scuffing it up, just putting some scratches onto the surface that the paint can kind of stick to. Now, some of this has a rough surface already. Probably can't see in the camera. So it's less important that it gets scuffed because it already has kind of pits and stuff in it that the paint will stick to. But the rest of it definitely needs to be scuffed. At this point, you could sand off some of this writing, and I may do that. In fact, I think I'm going to do it, but I'm not going to do all of it. I've mentioned, if you've ever looked at a real rifle, real rifles have writing on them. They have logos, they have warnings on them, they have serial numbers, they have all sorts of things that are actually really written on the rifles. So to have some writing engraved, embossed or whatever in the side of the gun is not just totally unheard of. It's actually kind of realistic. So even though I'm removing some of this, because this whole side of this rifle has writing on it, I'm not going to remove it all, because that would not be realistic. And I don't remove the Nerf. And in this case, I am, let's see, I am going to remove the Slingfire, but not the Nerf. The Nerf is deep. It's down there really deep. It's hard to remove all the way. And a lot of times you mess up the texturing underneath the logo when you sand it off. So I don't want to do that. It also gives a place to add some detail when you're weathering it, when you're adding some of the color back to it, so that, you know, grime and dirt and rust and whatever else you're adding will stick in some of the cracks and crevices of the logo, and it actually looks pretty good. So this Slingfire is also really deep. I may not take it all the way off. Leave it on there to look like it may have been on there when the weapon was new, but now it's mostly worn off. Might actually make it look kind of cool. Which brings me to another point. And that is that while we're doing this, we're scuffing, we actually start the process of our weathering right here. Most of these scratches are going to get filled with paint and you're not going to see them. But a lot of them will show through, especially the deeper ones. So start thinking about what direction would the scuffs come from. You know, they come from the front. If you were to drop this, they might come, you know, like that. So when you do this, don't just do circles. Kind of think about it. Not terribly important, but think a little bit about it. And maybe add a few deep ones where you think it might look good to have. You will have a lot of dust. The plastic sands really easily. So we want to get rid of the dust. And that looks pretty good. So I'm going to hang this up behind me. When you're hanging things, the biggest thing to remember is that try to hang it in a place where the hook isn't going to get in the way of the painting, because wherever your hook goes, the paint can't get behind the hook, and you don't want the hook to be, for example, down here, where when you took it off the hook, you'd have a bare spot where the paint didn't get. I'm hooking it up here inside, where you will never be able to see that it was hooked. So, all right, this I'm doing very lightly, and that's because there is wood grain texture on this stock, and it's a beautiful copy of a wood grain texture. So first off, it's already a little bit textured, and secondly, I do not want to get rid of that wood grain, because when we go back to paint this, that pre-existing texture is going to be vital to making this look like it's really a wooden stock. Where I will sand is on this part, on some of these smooth parts, because the paint won't stick to the smooth part, and also to get rid of any seam, because this is two pieces put together, and there is a seam that you can see in some spots, and so it's good to sand this, because that's the one thing that when you look at the finished product, and our paint job looks absolutely gorgeous, and it looks totally like this is real until you look and you see these seams. Same thing. You got to get rid of the seams, but don't sand so much that you're getting rid of the natural wood grain. So unfortunately, that means that you're not going to be able to get rid of the seam altogether. But if it's really big, knock it down a little bit. I'm also not going to sand much on the bandage because it actually has a lot of texture already. So just some of these smoother parts. Now this is a piece that I'm also going to hang up. It's a little harder to find a spot to hang it up. I don't want to hang it through there for the reasons that I just talked about. But there's not a lot up here to have the hook grab onto. So Sometimes this is a little tricky, but I do think that there's enough of a hole right there. There we go. Maybe not. Uh-oh. Sorry for the delay there. Yeah, that's weird. Okay. See, it's hard. All right, there we go. I caught it. Got it in the hole. All right. The rest of these, scuff up as best you can. These are smoother. We're just scuffing. Like I said, we're just scuffing up. I use a really good primer. I'll talk about that in a second, but it's a professional primer. And it sticks really well. In fact, it's funny. It sticks better than the color. It sticks to the ABS better than the color sticks to the primer. And I'm using the same brand, so I don't understand exactly why. But that's how it works. So... Alright, I'm not going to sand those because their bandages have a lot of texture. This is smooth, so I will touch it a little bit. Alright, get rid of some of the dust, and there we have it. So now we are ready to get the paint out and the primer out first off and start painting. I want to talk a little bit about this. I've talked about it in my last series, but go over it again. This is a professional spray paint. I get it at a big box store. It is a little bit more expensive than just your average, Krylon or Rust-Oleum paint, especially the Krylon. But it's worth it. One, it's a bigger can. You get more in it. That's kind of how you know it's professional. It covers way better, it lasts longer, and you don't use as much, I don't think, because it covers better and it doesn't drip. This is a primer version. Another thing is this cap. It comes with a professional cap. Now these caps are actually interchangeable. When you buy these at the big box store, I've never seen that they sell different caps, but you can go online or you can go to more professional places that sell other brands of professional spray paint, and you can find separate caps that all have different spray patterns or spray sizes, and you can actually replace these caps. And because this is the professional version, it is compatible with these professional spray caps, which makes it nice. But for our purposes, we're not doing anything. We're not doing like graffiti or real fine detail with these, so the one that comes with it is fine. So you make sure that the can is mixed, shaken, especially when it's new. This is a brand new can. So make sure that ball, you can hear it shaking pretty well. Make sure that you wear your respirator, especially if you are indoors like this in a confined space. I joke, if you only ever used spray paint once in your life, you get away with not using a respirator. But if you're using it almost every day, like I do in the shop, then you are going to want to wear one. So you think you're invincible when you're young, but then you get old and realize you're not. So I'm going to go ahead and start spraying this. Since you won't be able to hear me through the mask anyways, I'm going to fast forward and see you on the other side. So, well done. Okay, I want to make one note. And that is one of the advantages of wearing these gloves is that just like the ABS plastic, the paint doesn't stick to the latex near as well as it does to your skin. So I am able to come and handle these pieces with the gloves on long before I would be able to handle them with my bare skin. So, just a tip. Okay, so a couple more things. This is going to take 15-20 minutes to dry to the point where I can flip them over, paint the other side, so I won't, make you watch paint dry in my video. But just a couple of little things to remember is make sure that you're doing this in a place that has a lot of space. There's a lot of overspray when you do this. It's a little bit better with the professional version, but you're still going to get a ton of overspray. Now, not just this, where you can see the actual paint sprayed, but a lot of this, especially when you're spraying up here, turns into dust. It dries in the middle of the air, and then it falls to the ground as dust. And when I'm done with the gun, I can sweep up a whole pile of what is essentially just paint dust. And it will get on everything around here. So don't do this inside your house without having some sort of a hood or a box or something to spray it in, because you will get this dust everywhere. And secondly, don't put it on too heavy. A couple of light coats is better than one very thick coat. It'll actually dry faster if you do it that way as well. Now, this will, like I said, it will take 20 minutes, 30 minutes to dry to where it's dry enough to the touch and where I can flip it over and it won't stick back down to the paper towel. It takes, actually, paint like this takes about a week to fully cure. Now, we're not going to wait that long before we put our black on, but just something to know that even though it's dry to the touch, it's still soft and it's not totally dry, or it's not totally cured. So we'll do that. So I'm going to let this dry, flip it over, paint the other side, and then I will come back and show you me putting the black spray paint on. So we'll skip ahead to then. So we are done. I have painted this black, a couple coats, both sides, and let it dry. Something to remember, I don't know why, black paint is really interesting. It takes twice as long for black paint to cure than any other color. And in my experience, that is like regardless of what type of paint it is. And I don't know why. That just is the way it is. But that aside, here's our black paint. Did it the exact same way as we did the primer that you saw earlier. Now we are ready to start putting some color onto this. And I will do that in the next episode. So thanks for watching. Comment, subscribe, like. You know the drill. And until next time, bye.